what you know about purification to save the heart of a nation. Let burn a talking wood, bringing light to a talking wood. Natural law, just wisdom and love, vision truth below as a bird. Let burn a talking wood, let burn a talking wood.
Welcome to the Affirm Life Daily Podcast. I'm your host, Cynthia Mitchell. And as always, I invite you to check out the website at affirmlifedaily.com. Follow on social at Affirm Life Daily. Please also subscribe to the YouTube channel at Affirm Life Daily. To spread the word of truth and freedom, I need your support. I need your help. So I ask that you support in any way you can. Just share information, share the website, share the podcast. And also thank you so much for listening right now. And because I have a special treat tonight. I've been pumped up about this for like a week, like literally all week. So tonight we're going to be talking about why is there a lack of diversity in the truth and freedom movement? And I have three phenomenal guests. So I want to give a quick introduction because I don't want to miss anything. So I'm going to read these very carefully. So first, this is a new guest. I've never had her on my podcast before. And when I tell you, when I was reading her bio, I was like, dang. Impressive. Her podcast and her body of work is impressive. I'm telling you guys, check her out. When I post my podcast, I post all the links so you can follow up with my guests. You can follow them on social media, check out their podcast, check out their work. We all have to, we're in this together. We're a collective. We're a community. Humanity is one. So, we have to support one another. So absolutely check out her work. So I want to introduce Marja West. She is an author, mentor of the Hermetic Natural Law Principles, a leading expert in energy mastery, outing the I don't want to pronounce that right. Gynocracy? Is that right?
Gynocracy.
Okay. Gynocracy, reality creation, and in her 39th year as a trauma-based mind control deactivator, de-armorer, focusing on hand-holding survivors of human trafficking, rape camps, satanic ritual abuse, cult and tribal, and NSP abuse, which is narcissistic, sociopathic, psychopathic abuse, to evolve from victim to victorious. Well known for her zero-filter, laugh-out-loud humor and disarming, electrifying presentations, Marja is the author of the book Effed Wide Open, The Rude Awakening of the Heart-Based New Humanity. Oh, I love that title. She is also a medical intuitive, martial artist, singer, multi-instrumentalist, musician, dancer, yogini, and plant lover. Did I not tell you she's amazing and phenomenal? I think I told you that before I even started. So now you see where I'm coming from. I'm very honored to have you as a guest. Thank you so much.
My next guest, Cynthia.
Oh yes, absolutely. I hope this is not our last time together. My next guest, my other two guests have been on before. If you watch the podcast regularly, I have Derek Bartolacelli. He gave me a really short intro for him, but it's okay. He's a man of few words, but the words he says are very impactful, right? Derek is a true warrior for truth, freedom, and natural law. He is a video producer, podcast host, conscious DJ, chef, collaborator, bilingual journeyman, initiate of the Temple of the White Dragon, and a student of the arts and sciences of life. An authentic individual, the real AI. I love that. Yes, it's all about authenticity. And he is one of the most authentic, realest people you will meet. He has been so instrumental in helping me, grow my podcast and meet new people to help me, build my audience and just make proper connections in the truth and freedom movement. So, blessings to him for all he's helped me with. And this next gentleman, my ace right there, Coach Soul Expression, been down from day one with me. So Soul Expression is the author of the groundbreaking book, Culture Control, Why the Love of Money is Objectively the Root of All Evil, a multi-dimensional creator and truth seeker. Soul is a hip-hop artist, poet, visual artist, and certified Reiki energy healer whose work bridges sacred insight and social awakening. Soul's journey has led him deep into the studies of history and natural law, guided not by institutions, but by direct communion with God. Soul challenges the illusions that bind humanity and empowers others to reclaim their sovereignty through true care, moral clarity, and spiritual courage. Welcome, everyone. You guys are just so awesome. Thank you so much. So without further ado, I'm going to share my screen because I am going to go through these questions. Are you guys able to see my screen? Yes? Okay, great. Wonderful. Okay, so we're going to jump into this. So you guys know I always like to start off with defining terms because people define terms differently. So I like to know exactly what we're talking about. So from each of you, I just like to know, how do you define diversity? Since that's our main topic.
Can I do
it? Yeah, go right ahead, Sol.
Okay, I'm a talky guy, so I like to talk. And it's funny that this is the first slide. I had no idea because I have prepared on my phone here like a little etymological breakdown of diversity. And so it seems like it originates from Latin, diversitas, or originally divertere. And that actually means contrariety, contradiction, or disagreement. But there was also colloquial uses of diversitas, which could just mean like difference. So not always contradiction, but that's like where it comes from, is contradiction. And so where diversity comes from, I think, is always important, or where all of these words that are like cornerstone words come from, and socially impacting words come from, is important. How I define diversity myself, as far as how I look at it in real life, is, or at least where it's important to me, is in diversity in culture. What I mean by that is there's differences or separations, you could say, like degrees of separation between ages. There's degrees of separation between levels of intellect, levels of study, and levels of intuitive grasping of concepts. Some people can grasp things very fast and very holistically. Some people need a lot of fine-tuned teaching and coaching to do the same. But where diversity matters to me is diversity of culture. And, inspiration from various presentations and concepts introduced to me by Mark Capaccio and Jordan Maxwell and people like them. And one of the main diversities or separations, if you will, that is important to me when it comes to culture is people who culturally subscribe to statism, or the belief that man's authority is legitimate, and people who don't. People who are more so of the culture, or are trying to figure out how to build a culture around the inherent freedom of all beings. And so diversity, where it matters to me, would be differences, contradictions, if you will, in culture.
Okay. All right. Who would like to give their definition next? Okay.
I'll go real quick.
Okay.
I just looked this up and to get more of the academic translation of it, but in French, diverse. The derivative of that, divers, diver. That means like, even if you're going into some store and there's just like a box of random miscellaneous stuff, it would be titled les divers, and it also means varied and diverse, so yeah, back to Latin, brother. Yeah, real talk. But yeah, Sol, you covered it too well, man. I don't know what to say after that, but wanted to throw in the lingual piece in there, but also, yeah, it's just an eclectic a variety of thoughts, ideas, people, cultures, languages, what have you, right? It all depends on the context, I suppose, or not. So that's what I'm considering. But yeah, it seems like the cultural diversity is quite important, and yet obviously it's been kind of hijacked and weaponized, and you see the broke woke side of things in recent years, right? So yeah, that's not what we're about. Fuck is that shit? Anyways, Mario, what's good, yo?
Well, I can't top any of those, other than to say that when I hear that word, and I have had many discussions about this word, it is a trigger word. Mm-hmm. And it's a trigger word in culture that really promotes divide and conquer. And I think in order for us, those of us who are in the truth and freedom movement, we've got to drop the triggers. And by dropping the triggers, I mean we have to look deep within our own selves about what it is that gets triggered and why it is so important to push the isms, whether we're talking racism or sexism or whatever, quotas, you name it. And I've been around a long time. So I have heard all of the cultural politicized nonsense between the masculine and the feminine, black and white, yellow and red, on and on and on. I'm frankly really, really tired of it. So I'm glad that we're getting this all out because I plan to put a wrench in all of it simply by just mellowing out the real distortions, the noise, the clashing, okay? Because we all need to get down to basics. And the basics is we need to allow everybody else to be different, period. Everybody gets to be different from me. I get to be myself. And as long as we can come from that place, that platform, I really see a lot of growth and forward motion and the dissolving of the barriers, because the divide and conquer is winning because we're getting all twisted up in our heads and in our panties and knickers and falling all over ourselves because we want to be right.
Yeah. Real quick, I just have to add something on because you said dissolving and then the divide and conquer. And, you know, we had a great episode with you. I have a podcast titled Dissolving the Divide with Leslie Powers, which everyone on this panel has been guests. And they were all great episodes. The one that Marja was on, we titled it, it's in one of her videos, and y'all got to check out Love, Truth, and Beauty. But she talked about, she drops this word and words sometimes and just, you know, like really creative identitarianism. You know, people are identifying with.
We're trying to remember that word.
Yeah, right. So just think about that. And yeah, so but yeah, with the dissolving the divide, we're really trying to branch out and, you know, reach out to anyone. You know, it doesn't matter race, color, creed, and all that stuff. It's just like we're in a time of need, and we gotta, you know, cut through the bullshit and, like Marja was talking about, transcend all these triggers, look deep within oneself and recognize and realize what is making me act this way towards certain things and all this stuff. So yeah, that's getting a little off topic.
Yeah, I think. Yeah. I'm sorry, Derek. I didn't mean to cut you off. No, I think a lot of that subconscious programming is always running in people. And if you are not aware, and if we don't have these kind of discussions, I think it will continue to run. And even people that think, you know, they're super, I'm you know, welcoming to everybody. Blah, blah, blah. We're all have been exposed to just an ungodly amount of programming to divide us in that way, to automatically think when I see a black guy, boom, 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 is going to pop in my mind, no matter what that guy is really like or what he's really about, or a black woman, it's so much subconscious programming. So once you start to realize, okay, I have that, then you can start dealing with it, because then you can say, wait a minute, I'm not gonna work off that programming. I'm gonna work a different way. You can consciously deal with that programming, and then I feel like that's when it starts to dissolve. That's when you start to recognize that you even have that programming. Because a lot of people, I feel like it makes them feel bad. Like, well, I don't want to be racist, or I don't want to be sexist, or da da da. So I'm just going to pretend like I don't have any biases. I'm going to pretend like I don't have that programming running sometimes.
Yeah, if I wanted to add just a little bit to what everybody just broke down, as far as the two sides of this word, or the two, let's say, sides of the coin of this word, where diversity as a coin has a side based in reality and has a side based in artificial, like an illusion, the matrix, if you will. And the side that we're familiar with, the side based in the matrix, is the diversity between, like I said, skin colors, age, the sexes, and a culture. Whereas the real separation, if you will, the real diversity that we have is just the diversity that we see in observance of natural law, right? Where there's a degree of some kind of separation, but since it's divine, it's a separation that's also a unification, meaning I look out the window and I see the world, I see the tree, I see the grass, I see the people going by. And there's a me that's seeing it dynamically, but then there's also an observing consciousness that is surrounding everything that I see, as well as surrounding the feeling I am, which, we can is like a spiritual context type of thing, where this beingness, I amness, if you will, is a unifying existence. It's something that unifies, and the power of love is the power to unify, right? Love is anything that unifies, basically can be, and I don't mean joins, I mean unifies, I mean recognizes the oneness within something, right? Not just joins it together in our five senses based reality, but unifies, as in makes it part of one consciousness. That diversity, where there's a separation so that we can appreciate each other, or appreciate differences, or appreciate the uniqueness of the self, as Marja was pointing out. I can be myself if everybody's allowed to be different. Then we have the reality of diversity. Whereas the other side is just the surface level, like I said, all of that extra stuff.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly with everything you said there. So the next thing I want to really kind of define, since that's part of the topic, is what kind of constitutes for you, what is the truth and freedom movement? What constitutes that for you?
The objective isness of things. Objective morality, objective reality, and objective truth. Not seeing things happening through your subjective lens, trying to, although we can align our subjective perspective to objective truth. Sometimes it's really not that hard. We just got to break down some of that ego attachment to falsehoods and that kind of stuff, and remove some of the blinders and have the proper conscious reminders. And yeah, so what constitutes truth? Sifting through the lies and all the things that are deceiving us. But yeah, really trying to recognize and realize the real lies with our real eyes. Jeez, kind of.
There you go.
I don't know that phrase, but yeah. Anyways, I keep it short and sweet.
Okay, Marja, what are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts are complex on that one, because there's content, and there's also what it is. Anyone who is moved to be a part of this movement, what are you offering? And how are you offering it up? And what is your offering based on? So this is going to require a deep dive into the individual shadow work so that you can, as an individual, operate from objective morality, okay? And in order to do that, you have to sift through all of your programming, all of your hurts, all of your weaponized woundology, as I call it, your victim consciousness, the places where you're offended or you feel like you're being oppressed or whatever. You got to look at all that kind of stuff. And then you've got to work it out, and you've got to apply all the principles to all the things that you're working out. Then you're going to package it. And who is your audience? So these are questions that we have to ask ourselves in order to move forward into the domain of the public sphere and actually be an effective teacher, an effective, in my case, I mean, I consider myself more of a provocateur, where I know that just my appearance is going to trigger certain people into thinking that I am this way or that way or not this way and definitely not that way. And what is she talking about? Okay. We have to get beyond all that. So my role as a provocateur in the Truth and Freedom Movement is to sit there and poke at all those tender morselettes, as I call them, all of the little triggers where people either want to dismiss me or hate me or project their mommy and daddy issues or project their sexual fantasies on me, whatever that is. And so it all boils down to the shadow work that you need to be doing in order to even have the courage, the cojones, to go out into the public domain and talk about truth, talk about objective morality, talk about the lies and the bullshit that you have been fed through media, through your family, through the atavism of the collective pain body of the human condition, which has basically been enslaved throughout the millennia by these low-level entities from the lower astral plane. So anyways, that's all I want to say about that.
No, that was deep. And very, very accurate. Because it does take a lot of self-awareness and a lot of vulnerability to put yourself out there and say, you know, because you're always working on yourself, always still healing, always still doing shadow work. Mm-hmm. So when you get out there talking, you know, it's not like you're bringing your real life experience, your real life pain, your real life traumas, your real life healing process to this work with you. If you're being real honest with it, you're bringing that with you. So it also takes that being vulnerable and being willing to admit that shadow side of yourself.
Yes.
You know,
the honesty of your own lineage, you know, like for myself, being Asian and also being European, having the lineage where I've had family having to face communism and fascism, ethnic cleansing, all that kind of stuff. I've had to make peace with all that because I can't come from this place where I'm a victim of all this because of my ancestors, and I'm going to make you pay for it. You cannot be in the Truth and Freedom Movement and be filled with that bullshit. You can't. You will be full of shit. You'll be called out like that. It won't last very long, and you'll be sort of this flash in the pan that just kind of is and then isn't. And that's something that we all have to look at. And we have to look at the little biases, you know. So looking into your own history, my own history of being part Chinese, being part Russian, being part Filipino and Spanish, looking at all the morselettes of my lineage, the Jewishness of it. You know, I've got to look at all that kind of stuff. And it's all got to be put in its proper place because if I identify with any of that in such a way that I am weaponizing my victimization or my lineage, we're all in trouble. And that's where I think the whole diversity issue comes in, is that people are afraid. They're afraid of being outed. They're afraid of the hypocrisy. I'm a walking hypocrisy, I'll tell you. You know, there's some days where I'm just like, all of my parts are in alignment. And there's some days I'll hear something, I'll see something, I'll feel something, somebody will tell me something, and I will be triggered, and I'll be a hot mess. You know, where it's like, man, I got to start from ground zero and get myself back in order. And it's not a one-off. Shadow work, no. It's not a one-off. It's an ongoing thing.
Yes, absolutely.
So that was amazing. That little exchange there was great to take in. What constitutes the truth and freedom movement for soul expression? I would say on the macro, all movements that are based in and moving towards love, which again is the power to unify. And again, I mean true unification, not just looks like unified, but is actually just joining up. Okay. So all the collective human movements throughout time, including the potential futures that are unifying, is on a macro level, truth and freedom movement. Because you don't get truth without love. You don't get love without truth. They go together. You don't get freedom without order. Order comes from love. They go together. So all of that. On a micro level, on an individual, what's going on now, 2025, July level, I would say what most aligns, in my personal opinion, would be movements aligned with spiritual anarchy and anti-culturalism, if you will, just against formation of groups just because the culture says so, but more so, you know, recalculating and being more in the now, where you're checking in with yourself at all times. Is this something that I actually align with? Cool. I aligned with it yesterday because I really checked in and it did, but now it changed and I no longer align with it. Do I want to stay just because it was this thing yesterday? No, right? That type of thing on a micro level is what people have to be doing on a daily and minutely basis to really be about their business in a truth and freedom movement. And I think ideologically it would be spiritual anarchism and anti-culturalism. So, you know, that's my personal opinion. Of course, there could be some diversity in what constitutes the micro level of what the truth and freedom movement looks like. But that's, as far as my research and stuff goes, I love the history, guys. I love and it all connects. I mean, obviously it's interwoven. So I'm not trying to separate various movements and say this is the one that's truth and freedom and the rest are not. But I'm saying the one that most aligns with like what I feel when I hear the words truth and freedom movement would be those.
Yeah, no, I agree. That was my very first podcast. Love and truth are synonymous terms because to me, they absolutely are. They're one and the same. You cannot have one without the other.
And God, love, truth, and God.
Yeah,
they're all
synonymous terms. So yeah, that was powerful. What you said, and definitely it is something that you have to. It's truly a minute by minute basis. You're facing your true self, and you have a lot of come to Jesus meetings with yourself all the time. Like, wait a minute, I'm tripping. Wait a minute, I'm lying to myself right now, big time about XYZ. I got, I'm not living in integrity right now. I'm not, moving how I claim I move. So you have to have those internal dialogues and confront yourself. And not beat yourself up, but be real with yourself.
Well,
you don't want people to be real with themselves, and then you're not going to be real with yourself.
Yeah, and from my perspective, if I could say one more thing, it's also in know thyself.
Yes.
And if you don't know thyself, then like go from I don't know myself yet. I'm learning that first.
Yes.
Because, you know, principles, right? First things. So principles first, know thyself first and move from there.
And sometimes I'm sorry, go ahead, Derek. Go ahead, Derek.
Sorry to interrupt, but yeah, going back to first things, you know, that first cosmological principle of mentalism, it's all about our state of mind. And we have to really keep that intact. And as I mentioned in the podcast we did, Cynthia, last year, science of life, right? Natural law. You got that natural law, by the way, you know? That's good. It's a daily operation, as I like to call it. And when I say that, I feel humbled by it. It's like, yeah, just, you know, take it day by day, Derek. You know, it's okay and all that stuff. Yeah. Because there are requirements for actual freedom. And this is really unpopular for, you know, audiences to grasp a hold of and actually listen to our content when we point the finger back at the individuals, because it all goes back to you. What are you doing? How sovereign are you? How much do you know about yourself? How much in control are you of your own mind? Because if you're not, someone else is. That's what the definition, etymologically speaking, is of gubernare, government, you know, mind control. So control yours. Be your own governance, you know, and not the exterior stuff, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. And, you know, life, with the changes and the things you go through in life, especially some of the more traumatic experiences, you know, you might think, oh, I know myself so well. And then something will happen to you. And it's like, wow, I didn't know this part of myself, because that experience brought it out of you, because life be lifing for real. You know what I mean? And sometimes you go through things. It's like, wow, I had some serious wounds in this area that I didn't even recognize until this happened to me, or this certain particular person came into my life, or whatever. And then it's just going to take that courage and willingness to address it and deal. Okay, this is part of me too. This is the part I got to get to know so I can get to heal. You know? But I love these answers, y'all. Y'all are coming through. Oh, y'all are coming through. These are some really, really great answers.
You just triggered a thought in me too. Can I I don't want to be too talkative here.
No.
You just triggered this thought in me where when you were talking about, oh, this experience cycled back some stuff or bubbled up some stuff that either I thought I knew very well or something, and now I'm learning myself again, right? And this is the thought, when we do take the time to learn ourselves, we open the door to what New Age movement calls self-love, but like the reality version of self-love. Because the more you know yourself, and I do mean know for real. I don't mean, you know, make conclusions about. I mean learn and know, right? The more you actually know yourself, the more room there is for you to begin to love yourself and to begin to discern between what is you and what is let's say 100% external program, right? What is divinely inspired from like your divine purpose in being here, your whatever, you know, some people may say your soul contract, whatever it is, you're not influenced by programming self, and your blend of influence by programming self, and your 100% external programming self. Learning yourself gives you the power to discern and opens the door to actually love yourself, which is the backbone of finding courage and confidence, which is I would say the root of all true care, of course, that I said in the last time I was here.
I'm glad that you brought that up. That was a very good point. I'm really glad that you brought that up, because that's an important part of the whole process too. So yeah, for sure. Okay, so our next question. So why do we see less women and people of color involved in this movement? Or is that even true? Tell me your thoughts on this. Because I feel like that is definitely a strong perception that's out there. And also, I would just say, even from a lot of my personal experiences, as far as talking to people about I'm pretty open book. I tell people, I'm into, check out my podcast. I'm into, truth and freedom and, government is slavery. And, a lot of people look at you like, wait, what? you don't believe in the government. You don't want, they protect us and da, da, da. But I just noticed that I get a lot more resistance, I would say, from certain groups than other groups when I talk about stuff like this. So, but I would love to hear all of your thoughts on it.
I'll go. So I think it's because of my very diverse lineages and the fact that I have so much atavistic triggers going on in my DNA of being oppressed, of being controlled by this gooberment. I call it gooberments. I just make fun of the shit because it's absurd. And so when I was growing up in the 60s and 70s, I made it my point to never want to belong to a club because, number one, I look different from everybody else. And when I came to America and having to learn English and discovering that my household had 3 different languages, and I thought it was one language, and feeling definitely very, very foolish about it, I had to learn how to stand on my own. And when you learn to stand on your own and you look different from everybody else, you just don't give a shit what anybody else is doing. And so when I entered university, I was 15. And I remember, and I went to a very, very liberal college. It's probably one of the worst ones still in terms of wokeism and all of that victim weaponization stuff. I remember getting recruited by the women's studies department because I checked off a lot of boxes. Oh, she's Asian. She's a woman of color. She's an immigrant. Ooh, she's a science and a math geek. We need to get her in. And so when they got me in, I figured, why not? Let's just double up here. And I was a physics and astronomy person. And so here I was, I got recruited. And what was happening is that they were trying to indoctrinate me into being a victim because I'm a woman of color and an immigrant, and I'm small, okay? I'm very petite. And they were trying to shove down my throat inherent racism because it was during the Vietnam War, and I look Asian, and of course, Asian people all look alike, right? So there was that. And not only was there that, there was also this whole thing about how unfair life is going to be for me unless I adopt affirmative action. And I did the math, and as a mathematician, you have to prove both sides of the equation. And if they don't line up, it's bullshit, So it's a little bit of this mathematics logic. And I had to apply it because I realized, wait, I'm not a victim. Wait, I've not experienced out and out racism. I mean, a racial slur during a war, who gives a shit? I don't take that stuff personally. It's not about me. The whole thing about dumbing myself down as a woman so I can be liked by these white women who were trying to convince me that I was something else and that I needed to be under their wing and protection. I just didn't buy it. Okay. So over the years, I have learned to stand on my own. I have put myself in front of audiences where they're all white, all black, all whatever, and nothing bad ever happened to me. In fact, the worst thing that happened to me was I got rocks thrown at me in the deep South because I was talking about the masculine and feminine, and some very, very deep Christian fundamentalists found that very, very offensive. Okay. So in answering to the question, do you see less women and people of color involved? I don't, to be perfectly honest, only because I have been out there since the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, before it was online, doing grassroots stuff, showing up at events, showing up at talks. You know, I did a lot of Toastmasters stuff in front of a lot of would-be entrepreneurs, and you got to practice your sort of signature speech, right? There were all kinds of people there, and I would just suck it to them about government being slavery. And this is way before Mark Passio. So I was talking about it. I was talking about how the vote was being weaponized and how we shouldn't vote at all. And I just remember just standing there. It was a bunch of people there, very, very diverse, all colors, all creeds. And here it was 15 minutes into my talk, and probably 80% had walked out of the room. So you have to open yourself up to the fact that people might not like you. They might not be down with what you're talking about. You might get laughed at. You might get rocks thrown at you. You might be booed off the stage. But this is the thing. When you are talking about truth, when you are talking about very, very triggering topics that are controversial, topics that are like, oh, what the fuck? Where is she going with this? There are consequences. And you have to face the fact that there are consequences, and you might get attacked. But, you know, for myself, freedom above everything else. Okay. And I think one of the things that we have to look at too, if we are really seriously looking at really being a part of this movement for real, and I mean, not just being a body, not just being a talking head, but being really, really out there. All right. You've got to consider what's going to happen with your family, what's going to happen with your friends, because you might lose them. They're not going to be supportive, especially if you're going to be bumping up against this concretized shitstorm reality of the Matrix. Okay. Because a lot of your family members and your friends, let's just face it, they are non-participating characters. They are not interested in truth. They are interested in the status quo and allowing the Matrix to define who and what they are. Okay. So you have to look at what it is that you want to offer. And ultimately, you're going to have to come to terms with what possible sacrifices you might have to make in order to make it real for you. And that can be a real painful journey when your family turns their back on you, when your partner turns your back on you, when you realize that everybody that you have surrounded yourself with in your personal sphere is going to think that you are absolutely effing insane, and they just might walk away from you. So I think those are all the things that we have to consider. But in my opinion, I know there is a diverse bunch of people out there rocking it. There may not be on social media because that's a whole other game, but they're out there. They're out there doing their flyers. They're out there doing their meetup events. They're out there doing all the things that you would do face-to-face, one-on-one, and in small groups and in big groups. And you just have to grow a pair and get out there. So that's my 2 cents on that.
No, I like that. I like that. Okay, gentlemen, let's see.
Yeah. I don't see less women or people of color. In fact, and Steve can attest to this, there's plenty of women in my little private thing that I got going on, me and my wife. And there we go, me and my wife, right? And you know, she's, you know, it's like she said, there's always going to be a group of people, let's say, that have the it factor that may come from a similar culture and be therefore more accepted into, oh, we got to put this person in front of a million people. And that may look like Jordan Maxwell, Mark Passia, and they start to kind of look alike and stuff like that. But, and the same with the spiritual community, right? You got the Wayne Dyer and the, who wrote The Power of Now, Eckhart Tolle, and they kind of look, everybody looks the same. But as far as what the real movement is, small groups, the little Telegram channels, Instagram chats, the meet up at the library folk, the meet up at the whatever, or even the college campuses. You go on the college campuses and you get to people that are discussing this kind of material. They meet up at the dorm room, and it's diverse, and they bring their homegirl and or she brings her homeboy. And it just is a very uniquely unifying thing to be speaking truth to power. And because of that fact, I think there will never actually, in real life, as far as the movement in real time, be any discrepancies that negatively impact the movement as far as less women or less people of color being involved. Now, are there less women and less people of color with the largest audiences? That may be so, but I think that goes for every movement ever. And I don't even think that is a bad thing. I greatly admire the people that have huge audiences that speak truth to power, even if all of them for all history look alike, because the culture of not subscribing to the 100% external programming and discerning what's yourself and what's not yourself, and being a force for truth, a force for love, a force for God on this earth during your temporary stay here, or stays here, depending on your belief system, is what matters. And that cultural diversity is strong.
I agree with what you're saying. And I have a follow-up question, though, for you. What do you think is the reason why at the forefront, like some of the people you met, why do you think they so often look the same? Why do you think that is?
Resources and the collective conscience is still going to influence some of it, even if it's a very heavily impacted collective conscience by the external programming. And so, maybe there's an element of, but even so, before I zero in on America, because that's an American answer I was getting ready to give. You look around the world, I would say brown women are probably number one in bigger audiences for truth talks. Probably. If it's worldwide, different languages, stuff like that. You got the Arab, you got the African, you got the Asian and South America included in this thing. Then it's probably, brown women that lead the charge. But America, we have like an American collective conscience, and right now white men lead the charge. And but I think, again, if it's truth, then what's important, I'm grateful for them. Come through, white dudes, Well,
I'm a student of Mark Passio. God bless his soul. Taught me so much. Oh, so grateful for him. So Derek, what's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I'm not as white as they come, because apparently Italians are a different breed.
They're different. They're just totally different.
You can take this back to post abolition of slavery, when Italian immigrants were treated less than and paid less than even black people, and especially white people. It was like a 50-cent difference. White people made this much and black people, and then Italians and possibly like Irish and whoever the fuck. Whatever. I'm so fucking Italian. My name is Derek Bartolacelli. But I'm only 25% Italian. What? With the 25% German, Yugoslavian, and some other stuff like Ukrainian, Russian, something like that. And my grandmother was heavily into like Chinese culture and lore. She grew up around there and this and that. And yeah, things come to mind like how many Chinese people are actually speaking out against the government? Obviously, it's draconian as fuck over there, and they have hogtied the censorship beyond belief, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a word I learned from Mario West, by the way. Censorship, right? Don't get caught up in relationships with the shitstems, you know? Like, it's not that funny, right? But yeah, to your point, Soul, like, yeah, things are Americentric as fuck. Even on YouTube, it seems, and like even people from other countries are always covering, you know, American topics and you know things, and we all know why, right? Because you know that this country, you know, influences so much of the world and has a stranglehold on a lot of the world as well in regards to military bases spread out all across the map. And where are we, conscious individuals, spread out all across the map, right? As well. How many people have actually taken the time to meet up with people in real life? You know, Maria West was so gracious and generous enough to take me under her wing, and I stayed with her for a couple months actually 2 years ago. And yeah, that really helped me out because I was going through a fuck ton of difficult issues, wounded masculine shit. And speaking of masculine, you know, it popped into mind first thing because you know it's been in my mind, you know, these things for years, and like because I was wondering, you know, what I posed this question to myself. You know, I love the slide. It's like, why does it? But I was thinking, like, why does it seem like there's less women and people of color in, you know, the truth speaking and you know freedom movement, whatever, right? Communities. If there is a real community with proper communication to bring forth and bridge the unity, right? You just can't have one without the other, right? Sister, brother, yeah. So I was thinking about it like this, you know, like you think about it in terms of the archetypal consciousness, right? Masculine intellect, feminine intuition, right? And the masculine is more of action, and you know, words sound power. You know, that's like a masculine trait to a good degree, right? So I felt like, you know, thinking about that, you know, years ago, I was like, okay, that kind of makes sense why there'd be more of a male presence, you know, especially on like YouTube or whatever, right? Yet, you know, it's, you can't deny the fact that there's tons of women out here doing their thing, and that's great. I love it. You know, I'm almost like infatuated by just, yeah, the female essence in your presence, you know, speaking that true shit. It's like, wow, that's attractive as fuck, you know, like. And so, you know, Marja and myself are on the One Great Work Network, and folks aren't familiar with that. You know, Sully spoke about Mark Passio as well as Marja. He founded this wonderful network that has upwards to like 80 different content creators. And my name was thrown around a couple years ago, like, yeah, and people were talking to me like, hey, Derek, you should, you know, be on the network and this and that. I was like, yeah, that's cool. And this, and people even, you know, close to Mark saying like, hey, I want to ask Mark if you should join the network, you know, recommend. And even Marja recommended me, and you know, thank you so much for that. And I remember I responded to one of the gentlemen who's in network. I was like, hey man, I'm totally down and completely honored for that kind of consideration. It'd be great to see more women up in that network. At the time, I only saw like, you know, maybe 10% were female at best. Now we got more, you know, like, and I even dropped like, hey, Sarah Cross, you know, put her before me and this and that. I don't need to be on there right away, this and that. It'd be cool to see that populated more with a feminine presence, because it seems like, you know, a lot of truth seekers look at, you know, networks like this and they have this, it's just a microcosmic space, yet they see it as like this macrocosmic level of, you know, these are the truth speakers and this and that. We're the truth speakers all over the map, yo. Like, And this is what I wanted to mention too. It's like, how many languages do people speak? How many people are actually looking into truth related videos that are in different languages or in different countries and this and that? Because they're out there. And I've had to, you know, remind myself as well, because I'm wondering, like, how many people in China, again, like that, or like how many people in India or fucking Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan, all these places, right? So I think it's just, we have a perception of this idea that there's a lack of women and people in color involved in the truth movement or whatever. Is it a movement? Where are we going, by the way? You know, we're trying to move towards freedom, but it seems like there's so many psyops getting, you know, it's cock blocking and throwing out so many speed bumps in the way of things, you know, and like diverting the straight and narrow path to where, you know, we need to be walking in a proper direction, right? So yeah,
Well,
you know,
I'm sorry, Derek. No, but one of the, just to kind of piggyback on something that Marja said earlier about the victimhood thing. And that's one thing that I, like I said, just have noticed with people that I talk to about, you know, truth and freedom and things like that is they're putting the victimhood before, you know, the movement. And I see that a lot with people of color and women. And a lot of women are just wanting to, they don't want equality. They now want to treat the men like they feel like they want to be the victimizer. I've been victim now, I want to be the victim. So that's not the movement. That's not part of the movement. They might be, everything they might say might be real good up until a point. It's like, oh, you just want to be an oppressor too.
Yeah.
That, you know, that's not helping. And, you know, that victimhood, I've just been experiencing it a lot. And I feel like that's a big part of the issue as well, because they don't want to release that part of their identity and empower themselves to that degree to say, I'm not going to blame anyone for my circumstance and I'm going to do whatever I have to do to change it. Like really change it through the movement, through bringing truth and bringing real freedom to the world. So that's my little 2 cents on that.
I just wanted to add one more thing.
Yeah.
And this might sound a little lewd and crude, but it's because, you know, idiot dickheads are acting this way of, you know, and why aren't there more women in the, you know, active in, you know, group dynamics or just, you know, whatever. There's a lot of guys, a bunch of slapdicks chasing women out of these, you know, spaces in groups and that kind of stuff with their lewd and crude fucking comments and that kind of shit. You motherfuckers are fucking dumb as shit. You think you're spiritual as fuck? Yeah. You got red pilled and you can't even understand who the fuck you actually are and treat people with respect, you know? Wow. Way to go. You know, like you're counterproductive, you know? Fuck out of here.
Derek, we could do a whole segment on that. Now that I actually have to date, I never had to date. I met my husband when I was 15. Boy, we could do a whole segment on these spiritual dudes out here. Like, really?
Yeah,
Derek. Woo. Yeah, so this is our last question. So, and I think we kind of already answered it because we're already talked about, you know, that it is out there. It's just we're not necessarily maybe seeing it in the way that we see it personified for some, but that doesn't mean it's not there. But if anybody has any additional comments on this prompt, go ahead.
Yeah, I would even say, not as a correction, but just to word it my way, if you will, that it's not that we're not seeing it. It's that we don't know what we see. Since the general population doesn't necessarily have already built up that instantaneous judgment, correct judgment, righteous judgment of, oh, this is just Matrix. This is just Matrix. Oh, there might be something here. That discernment, radar, like a gaydar, back in the 90s we used to say, but like the radar for a Matrix, a Madar, if you will. Since people don't have like a strong Matrix dar that is active all the time, when we think as a general population, we're getting different like schools of thought when really we're just in a grocery store aisle looking at a whole bunch of different boxes from the same company. And so we don't know what we're looking at. And that's why I think a lot of times we don't, quote unquote, see the diversity and the truth movement, because we don't recognize the truth movement. We think just another channel on the TV, just another box in the aisle. And we'll have the matrix bar, going off like truth. No, false. We don't have it. So that's all I wanted to add. I do see it says 5 of 8 though, and I'm curious. I know we've been yapping for a while, but I'm just saying.
Yeah. So, did anybody else have any comments on this particular prompt? So,
I have something to say, and I want to encourage everyone listening, those of you who are listening after the fact, and encourage everyone to stop preaching to the fucking choir. This movement is not going to get spread all over creation if we keep wanting to speak to a totalitarian echo chamber of agreement. Stop it, okay? That does nothing. That does nothing. You might as well be jerking everybody else off that's a friend of yours, okay? That's how I see it. You have got to get courageous and preach. Put yourself in front of an audience that doesn't know anything about you and go. And I want you to practice that. And you don't have to do it online. I think a lot of people the online platform is just one platform. It's not the end all be all. I say do it all. But more importantly, put yourself in front of audiences that know nothing about you. That's my 2 cents.
I love that challenge. Challenge accepted. I love that. Thank you for saying that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hell yeah.
Absolutely.
Tour extraordinaire.
Yes. I love it. I love every bit of it. So we are coming around to any questions, comments, or feedback.
Can I just add something real quick?
Oh, of course, Eric. I'm sorry.
Going back to the last question. I mean, people just need to reach out more. Get comfortable outside of your comfort zones. Way much more than you already have or have not. And what I've done, since 2012 is concoct these, cool, conscious hip-hop mixes. And I'm trying to...
Which are dope, by the way. Check them out.
Thanks so much, yeah. It's really trying to introduce, a plethora of, there's like hundreds of different artists from all types of background. Latino, African American, European, from Africa or wherever, right? India, BMAC Mastermind, that guy's dope. For me, it was like really trying to be a portal for, introducing a diverse, eclectic perspective through music and all this stuff. And since the dawning of the Rona, I've gone more vocal myself, and Leslie Powers and I have our Dissolving the Divide, as I mentioned before. We're inviting whoever wants to. We're on hiatus, by the way, right now. I was a part of Europa Natural Law, which was a cool group of just bringing Europeans together to talk about that good old natty law and ways to find solutions to all the problems in the world under this overarching, aspect of, being aligned to the divine, objective morality, like we talked about, and all this stuff. And now we have this sound path to freedom, which Marja and Soul and myself are going to be presenting our music. I'm not a musician, but I'm DJing and stuff. But, so we have a bunch of people, even from Spain, I think, possibly Africa, just a lot of places, and a lot of different backgrounds from people. And, these are just ways to inspire others, motivate and move minds through arts and sciences of consciousness. You know, that's universal. You know, these things are universal languages: music, love, agape, and all these things. You know, as we all covered as well. Wonderful chat, y'all. I love what everyone has brought to the table. So yeah, interested in questions, comments, and all that stuff. Thanks.
Yeah. Any questions, comments, feedback? I know y'all got to have something after all of that. No questions, comments?
Yes.
Okay. Hey.
Yes. Good day, loves. I am Tensi. Hey. I have just been absorbing the conversation, and all the questions that I had in my mind, they just kind of resolved themselves during the course of the conversation. But checking in with my spirit for a moment, I think that the main thing, oh, yes, I do have one, and it is this. So, coming out of the discussion of the truth and freedom movement, and the question of where are we moving to, and the question of getting in front of people that don't know you, and how can we unite everyone through love and through truth. I feel like this is a really ripe time that we're in, where there is all this stuff happening around the world when it comes to like AI is doing its thing, cryptocurrency and digital assets and tokenization and all of that stuff, and the financial world is doing its thing, and social media is ever evolving, and people are feeling more lonely than ever.
Yes.
When there are people that we're seeing that have this visceral reaction to truth, that automatically puts up a wall that is hard to break through. So if we are truly wishing to reach the hearts of people, what do you think is the way to do so? Because in the law of freedom, it does take a great many people to be able to take back over their own lives and consciousness, to take accountability and be responsible, to discern. And that can't happen if they're all closed off to the possibility of even beginning to hear truth when they're being met with it. So I know that it's easy to get into an echo chamber, and it's easy for me, at least, to even when I'm gathering, I find myself gathering the people and then almost beginning to recoil within myself when I have the opportunity to get outside of the mode of this is what's generally accepted, and into a here's a deeper truth I'd like us to look over together. And with these agreements between each other that we're going to honor each other's stories, and let's put the automatic judgments aside. So in this question, it really boils down to, and I'd love to hear from each of you, or whoever feels called to share, how do you think we reach the heart of the person?
That's a great question. And I just want to add into it, whoever's going to answer, when she said that people are lonely, I think that's a big part of it, but also people are very scared and fearful. So yeah, let's run with that. Who would like to start off?
I'll start. I always like to start. As far as a part of the question that my mind zeroed in on is these walls are built up. From what Cynthia just added, people being scared, people being this aversion to the unknown, this aversion to change, this aversion to evolution, mixed with the more and more prevalence of echo chambers and false separation, the illusion of separation. It does require some creativity, but as far as what it boils down to, in my opinion, like strategy-wise, how do we reach the person that has these huge titanium-enforced brick walls up against their own evolution, let's say away from fear and toward love? I would say to spread the seeds so that even if the plant of truth, even if the tree of truth doesn't necessarily grow from your seed to them, it may grow because one of your seeds that you've sown in the whole of the land reaches their mother, reaches their daughter, reaches their male cousin, just to say a male. And through their conversations with their cousin or their mother or their daughter, they open up. And then somebody else who is sowing seeds finally gets through to them, and now they have a seed that's growing in them. So sowing the seeds, and as I believe Marja and Derek pointed out earlier, that doesn't necessarily just boil down to just consistently always post online every day. It's more so, you kind of find your groove, you get in front of people, you have conversations with people in your real life, family members that will disagree with you at the dinner table, whatever it is. But being intentional about how firm you stand your ground on what the truth is a bigger thing than just like post, where you can get sloppy with the wording or be uninspired and people can feel that, whatever. But sowing seeds across the whole land, the seed may not grow inside your target, but it'll grow somewhere. And then that plant will also spread seeds. And the wind and the water will carry the seeds elsewhere.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I'm a big sprinkler. I love to sprinkle seeds. Marja, were you going to say something before?
Yes. Yes. So I can share what has worked for me. And what has worked for me is really thinking about the common ground, the commonalities, the common pains, the common concerns, and to pick one that is very, very meaningful to you. Because over the years, and having been at this for, so many decades at this point, what I have concluded, and what is true again and again and again, is that my biggest pains and concerns will be mirrored by my audience every single time. And so I have a signature talk. I have a signature topic, which is really about the way we navigate heartbreak and grief. And a lot of that will pertain to feeling isolated and alone and misunderstood, and having a family filled with Republicans or whatever. And to speak to those points. And there's an opening that happens, and you'll feel it. You'll feel it in the middle of your presentation, where the energy will be, it'll be tight. And all of a sudden, everything will just kind of drop into place. And you'll notice in your audience, especially a live audience, where the arms will uncross, the legs will uncross. There will be a leaning forward that you'll notice in body language. So that has worked for me. And it has been a process of trial and error, of course, because what you're doing when you're doing your presentations is you're actually tuning in to really the heartbeat. And there's a collective heartbeat in every audience that you are going to meet with. And you're going to be able to tune into that, I promise you. And it takes courage to do that. And you might make a mistake. And if you do make a mistake, you make a repair and amend in real time. And if you make a mistake and somebody calls you out later, you do the same thing. You make an amend and a repair in real time. You meet up with the person. So that's what I would like to offer for that.
Yeah, that's good. I like that. You have to own it. Own your stuff. You make a mistake. Yeah, don't get defensive.
Hell yeah. And yeah, piggybacking off of what Marja said is, I mean, along the lines of kind of understanding that us as human beings, we will agree upon more things than we're going to disagree upon. Because, hey, breaking news, everyone. We've all been hurt. We've all been duped. We've all suffered some kind of heartbreak or loss. There's this and that, you know. There's some the lowest common denominator factors that we can all kind of lean back on and, you know, just save face, you know, and as Marja said, like, you know, reconcile things in real time, you know. How much of your ego is blocking that from happening, you know, or whatever blockages are going on within you, right? So to the question as well, and yeah, Tennessee, thank you so much. Appreciate your comments, compliments, and questions. Yeah. What I like to use is the art of persuasion in many occasions, you know. It could be through humor, you know. I like to freestyle, obviously, you hear that a little bit, and just kind of trying to meet people where they're at and, you know, get an inway into, you know, what they're interested in or passionate about, and piggyback off that and kind of give them some insight and work your way into, you know, infusing some of that good, truthful shit, you know. And even if they might, you know, you might feel like, oh, it looks like their feathers are getting ruffled a little bit, you know. Do you buffer that or just, you know, continue to ruffle it or whatever? It all depends. There's so many, like, every interaction is so unique between individuals, and we have to respect that, right? And yeah, like, it's different when you're online and doing your presentations or dissertations and spreading informations. You know, yeah, like, there are times where I just want to just speak cathartically and trigger the fuck out of people, you know, to see who gets it or not. And I'm not, you know, we have no control over how people are going to take in this information and interpret even what we're talking about as crystal clear as we want to articulate it, right? But, you know, we got to just continue keeping on and holding on strong to that eternal flame, the soul spark that's pulsing in the center of your chest. Are you feeling that? Are you alive? You know, like, but yeah, matters of the heart, yo. Cheers. No,
that I agree with that too. That heart center, reaching that heart center with people. And one thing that something that I've just recently learned, I'm part of a group called Collectively Sustainable. And every other Sunday, we practice something called authentic dialogue. We'll have a hot button topic, and then it's basically you're asking questions in order not to counter what the person is saying or not to debate, but to understand why they think like they do or feel like they do or act like they do. So I think that can also be a great tool, because a lot of times, especially I know me, I've always been that kind of, great debater, like argumentative, like, oh, I got a response for that. But instead, that's not what it's about. It's about asking the questions to really get to the heart of the matter. Because once you can get to the heart of the matter, then you really find out they're not really, this or that. This is that. It's a much deeper level. It's a much deeper fear. You can really start to understand where they're coming from and why. And I think that can be a way into their heart much easier than just confrontational or argumentative. So I think that can be helpful too. Any other? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I want to say, booyah! What you just said resonates with me so strongly. It's touched me. All of you have really contributed. And just so many things were said, like about fear. Fear is the mind killer. We have to bring them out of fear. And I've noticed that kind of the third time's the charm. They got to hear it from me and then hear it from you. And then they hear it from that one other person. And things that make you go, And I'm always careful to try and leave people with the resonance that you're not a drop in a bucket, a singularity. You can do nothing. You're alone, blah, blah, blah. I always leave them with, you're a power-filled ocean and a droplet of creation. Be magnificent. This is awesome.
I love that. I love that. That was beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for that.
I love that. And thank y'all for
all of you.
sharing.
Yes. And any other questions or comments at all?
Well, I actually offer that you're not just a drop in a bucket. You're a empowered ocean in the universe. What'd you say, Dennis?
A power-filled ocean in a droplet of creation.
Power-filled ocean in a droplet of creation.
Right, because we are the water.
Go ahead. You want to speak more on what you mean?
Well, because we are the water, and everything flows through us. It's all about our energy, how we expend our energy, how we save it, how we conserve it, and most importantly, how we communicate and share, because where the whole idea of the power-filled ocean and the droplet of creation comes from is that each cell communicates with each cell as they're manifested within the womb to make the beautiful you. Communication is key. Now, finding that bridge, it's huge. This is an awesome chat. See me, Glitchman.
You can write poetry. That was so just eloquent and beautiful. It's got me tingly. That was really beautiful. Thank you.
It had triggered a thought in me. My bad. It had triggered a thought in me, just in the same vein of regarding getting through to people and getting the message spread across fields and areas that aren't familiar with, let's say, this kind of talk, that says the importance. I agree that the importance is not necessarily on did I get everybody, but being strategic, meeting people where they are, staying present so that you could get that one person who would get that one person who would get that one person it gives imagery for me to the actionability of not looking at oneself as a drop in a bucket, but looking at oneself as a piece of creation. And let's say even honoring thyself as a child of God or a piece of the whole, or whatever, however you want to word it. And through that reverence and honor, doing the actions, displaying true care and spreading the message in places that it may be rejected by most or all even. Because there's always, it's funny, just to put some music into it. There's this producer here in America. His name is Just Blaze. Just Blaze has produced platinum records. Very, very good producer in hip hop. And Just Blaze was working on a song with Eminem, who's the highest selling rapper, I think, of all time, or one of them. And crazy high selling person. He sells a lot of records. And he was in the studio with Eminem, and he noticed something. And so he said to him, he said, hey, in this part of the second verse, you get a little off time. There's a little bit of, you're off time a little bit. Just, right here, listen here. And he plays it. And he said that Eminem turned away, turned back to look at him in his chair. He was sitting in front of him, looking at the screen, listening. And he turned back and he said, I don't hear that, dog. And then turned back around and didn't say anything else about it. And Just Blaze said he felt like, oh man, I messed the money up. And so eventually Eminem goes home, and then he gets a phone call like 2.5, 3 hours later. He's, mixing the track, doing whatever producers do. And it's one of the managers. He says, M wants to talk to you. And so he puts M on the phone, and he's thinking that like he's going to get sent home and the project is going to be through. But actually, because he planted that seed, the rapper Eminem gets on the phone with him and he says, yo, how did you hear that? I've been listening to that song for 3 hours now, and I couldn't hear it for the longest time. And now finally I hear it. Like, how did you hear that? And he was happy that he told him that he was off time. And at first he was just nothing, silence, grasshoppers. And so that kind of planting of the seed of saying what's true, even if it's for an audience that'll reject it, is, I think, exemplified through that little story.
Yes, very much so. I want to just thank Marja so much. She does have to go. I promised her an hour, and we're already at an hour and a half. So thank you so much for being on. And I will be posting all her links and everything when I post this to my website and to YouTube. You have been phenomenal, so insightful. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Cynthia. Thank you, Derek. Thank you, Sol. Thank you, everyone who was tuned in. And sorry, I have to go. I've got my next thing. But many blessings. And I just encourage you all to share the love. Really, share the love. Okay, my love.
Love you all. Thank you.
Thank you for
Bye
your
for
wisdom.
now. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye-bye.
And we will go ahead. I know we've been keeping y'all long tonight. I'm just going to quickly show you the upcoming podcasts. So we have The Power of Imagination coming up, and that is on August 6th. And then I have Men and the Movement. I have 3 guests for that. So definitely, check those out. That's on Wednesday, August 27th. And as always, visit the website for more information, resources, and ways to connect. Please follow on social media, subscribe on YouTube, all that good stuff to help spread truth and freedom. Any closing words, gentlemen?
Well, just for, Marja, her platform, Love, Truth, and Beauty, she has a series out, and just, overall continual references to this heart-based humanity, ushering in a new earth of where we're actually, operating from that heart-based intelligence, holistic intelligence, and aligned to, hermetic principles and all that stuff. She was very inspirational for me, and she actually interviewed me a couple years back. The initiatory interview, Conversations with Men, and that inspired me years after, where Cynthia, you and I got to schedule something where I have my own series of conversations with women, because I do want to, such a weaponized word right now, but like be more inclusive or whatever the fuck, but just ain't even got to go there, right? But you know what I mean, right? So I just want to have a series one-on-one with women and like get their perspectives and have them weigh in on the whole divide and conquer, war of the sexes, and all this stuff that, you know, is just for the spiritual community. I'm rather shocked that, you know, there's a lot of dysfunctional relationships going on with people. And so,
You know
yeah,
what?
good
Yeah.
grief. You know, like, that's what we're going to be. That's all I got, yo. Welcome to the Yoniverse. Thank you very much, mother lovers. Yeah.
Oh, did you tell them where they can find you, Derek?
Yeah. Awaken your mind. Awaken, YA, mind. One word. So you heard.
Okay. Thank you so much.
And I guess I'll start with that. You can find me at Ufulu Child. So UFULU Child.com and at Ufulu Child on social media. That's where you can find me at. Also, Soul Expression on Instagram. But the business page is the Ufulu Child page, and the personal page where all of my opinionated posts and whatnot go is the Soul Expression. Is spelled how it's spelled on here, SOLXPRSN. Closing remarks are that we have a temporary stay in this place. So whether you win or lose, you learn. And what you learn, you do take with you. What you win, you don't.
Say it.
So, you know, what's important is not what, you know, you've come to attain, what you've come to take control of, what you've learned to manipulate, but who you are is what matters, because who you are is going to your next destination. Which, of course, I mean, as far as the highest level, is still here in the heart. But, you know, we do have the experience of linear time for our temporary stay here on Earth. Therefore, make your priority to become who you want to be and to remain that. Because what you learn, you will take with you. What you win, you won't.
Well, I must say that was the perfect note to end on. Thank you all so much. This has just been such a wonderful discussion, so thought-provoking, so insightful. I mean, it's given me a lot to think about, and you know, you've helped me, you know, reshape some of my views and things. So I appreciate that. I appreciate you both very, very much. And Marja as well for joining us. And all of you that joined the live, thank you so much for being here and supporting this work and standing up for truth and freedom. We need every voice. We need every share. We need every like. We need everybody to care. Just like he said, that part, care. And we show it through our actions. We take that with us. Everything we learn, we do take it with us. So with that, infinite grace, love, and gratitude. And everyone have a wonderful, wonderful evening.
Booyah.
Thank you guys. Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.